What is a creative way of driving someone insane? Oh man, this is about to get good, like evil good in a good way. Here's the first story. Did not take a lot of money. We recorded the infrared signal for TV off of our neighbor's TV and built a small device that would replay this about every 10 minutes. Hid it on top of a shelf in his living room. Worked for weeks. Bonus fun, a few days later, a TV repair guy came and took the TV with him. Returned it a few days later and declared the TV to be in perfect working order until it suddenly switched off again. All right, so this is the kind of petty genius that deserves a Nobel Prize in nuisance. I'm wondering why they actually did this now that is a good backstory. Story 2. Last year, I hooked up a 200-watt subwoofer to my work laptop and hid it under the false floor, turned the volume all the way up and set my email notification to a sub-bass drop. That link could potentially damage your speakers. That thing damn near shook the building apart. I left it that way for weeks and only turned it off after multiple tickets were submitted to the service desk for failing air handlers and broken equipment. One of our support guys stopped working entirely for a week and just kept a log of every time he heard something crash. Story 3. Back in high school, I ate lunch with the same girl every day. I am 6 feet tall, 280 pounds. She was 5'2", maybe 95 pounds. Over the course of a couple of months, I brought smaller and smaller lunches and just snacked in between classes when she was not around. I would make comments at the lunch table about how full I was after eating my 1/4 sandwich and 2 apple slices, and how I wished I had an appetite like hers. After a few months, I noticed her lunches were also getting smaller and smaller. By the end, she had to see a specialist about the disorder she had somehow developed. Moral of the story, if you make a claim that you, quote, have someone wrapped around your finger and can get them to do anything, be prepared to get smacked down when said person hears about it. Like I said at the beginning of the video, some of these are evil. This one, not so good. Story 4. I once decided to try and drive my grandfather insane. I placed stickers randomly throughout his house, and they were all American flags. I'd try and find the most random places to stick them, such as inside his coat or on the ceiling above the toilet. A few days later, though, I started finding them in my stuff, in my shoe, inside a pack of my gum, even in my pants pocket. It was driving me insane. I was taking a shower and I found one in my towel. I finished showering and went into the kitchen to confront him about it. I asked him how he found them all so fast, and all he said was, "You can't win against me." Story 5. I remember there was this penny prank that someone posted a while ago. I found another description of it online basically. You start by leaving a penny in the shoe of a person you live with. A wife or husband or roommate is a good choice. Next day, leave a penny somewhere else, by the sink maybe, or a nightstand in the middle of the room. Just don't be obvious about it. Every day, leave a single penny in a different place where your target is likely to find it. Say nothing about this. He or she probably won't mention finding pennies until the 4th or 5th day. Keep leaving single pennies, one per day, in odd places until your target mentions finding them, and isn't that odd? Don't be interested, act like you couldn't care less about this, and change the subject. On the next day, start leaving 2 pennies in different places. Be creative, only 1 location per day. Now your target will start going crazy, trying to figure out what this means. He or she will probably look to the supernatural, thinking he's trying to be contacted by the other side, etc. If you want to be clever, use pennies with dates of special importance to your target. Birthdays, anniversaries, etc. So much the better. There is really no end to this prank, just go very, very, very slowly with it. Story 6. Peanuts. This works best in an office setting. You need a few like-minded assistants and a hapless target. First, you make a comment about smelling peanuts. Lean in and sniff the target. Ask questions about their diet. Eventually, shrug it off. Every day, have a compatriot mention smelling peanuts around the target. Nothing drastic, just small comments every other day. Mention PB&Js, Snicker bars, what have you. Have an attractive coworker lean into the target space, inhale deeply, and purr, you smell like Nutter Butters. Keep this up for a few weeks. Sharpen a pencil. Suggest that it smells like peanuts. Add toner to the copier. Peanuts. Try to implant a subconscious suggestion. If done correctly, you'll see the target begin changing their hygiene routine, switching soaps and shampoos. They will certainly become paranoid about consuming anything with peanuts. The denouement, bring a bottle of peanut oil to work. With a Q-tip, apply a light film in their area. Hit places that are both difficult to reach and likely to warm up, like the backs of monitors and near power bricks. Get the charming aroma to infuse everything in their space. Now, when they begin complaining of the peanut aroma, insist you can't smell it anymore. Have your compatriots do the same. Enjoy your lulls. It goes without saying that this could be dangerous should the target have an allergy, but hey, gotta crack eggs to make an omelet, right? Story 7. A simple yet very effective one I like to use at work is to acquire people's pens. Every single time they put the pen down and look away from it, I pocket it. The very small windows of opportunity yield the greatest confusion. I had that damn pen right here just a second ago. And then to add to the confusion, I will use it in front of them during the day as if it's my own. A few days later, I leave the pen somewhere to be found, only to steal it again the same day. It's been 4 months of pen stealing so far, and I'm fairly sure my store manager legitimately thinks he's going crazy. Story 8. Hire an entourage of painters, stake out your target's house. When he leaves, have the painter simply paint over something tiny with a red paint. Maybe a letter on the keyboard. He'll come home, see the paint, wonder about it, and eventually dismiss it as nothing. The next day, paint over his sink tap. The next day, his watch. Over time, his house will descend into a myriad of red. He'll freak out, call the police, install security cameras to no avail. The reddings continue, and the target will eventually move out, selling the house at a loss. The first few weeks are fine in his new abode, and the target relaxes, until he notices his shoelaces are red. The next day, his coffee mug, at his office, the work phone, he decides to get help and see a therapist, an actor hired by you, Dr. Red. The therapist's office will be draped in red. The target will seek comfort from the doctor only to find rejection. As the dejected target shuffles and leaves the clinic, he hears music, 99 red balloons. As quickly as it appears, it disappears. The target heads home in his car with a newly red side mirror. As he readies for sleep with a red lampshade next to him, he hears the same noise, 99 red balloons. Again, it disappears. This continues for days and days, red followed by 99 red balloons. He moves house after house, selling them all at a loss, leaving a trail of red wherever he goes. He crashes at his parents' house, only to wake up in a red room with 99 red balloons bouncing around him and the song playing in the background. He shouts for his parents, but before the sound is released, a trank darts straight in his neck. When he comes to, he immediately shouts for his parents, only to realize the room is back to its norm. He quits his job, finding red pens and red notes everywhere, red that no one else in the office acknowledges, actors, all of them. Before he goes to sleep, he hears 99, and when he wakes up, he's greeted by balloons. He sees red in his closet, under his bed, in his car. His parents are whisked on a cruise they won out of the blue. A cruise bought by you. Home alone, the target is greeted by red, layers of red everywhere he goes. Every step is mirrored with 99 red balloons, and eventually the target decides to leave home and just start afresh in a new city. Story 9. This isn't so much a slow burn as it is a that's kind of messed up kind of burn. In high school, a friend and I were devising a way to prank a dude we knew was working late that night. It being Wisconsin and mid-December, the temperature was in the low -200s, meaning water would freeze quickly. We pondered this. The man was also an overbearing loudmouth who judged any kind of gayness. We pondered this as well. We drove to our town's respective corn distributor and purchased a 2-pack of the most gay mags we could find. We filled 4 empty milk jugs with water, went to his work an hour before he was to get off, and covered his entire car in gay stuff. It was completely covered. And then we doused that mother trucker in water, top to frickin' bottom, and waited. He got off the late shift in well below freezing weather, and we watched from behind a snowbank as he tiredly walked to his car, yelling, "What the heck?" from the top of his lungs, and spent the next hour scraping stuff from his car. And this one is an example of evil, but kind of pretty good too. Story 10. On one of my deployments, I played a game called Chicken Bones. There was this one specialist I couldn't stand. We'll call him Joe. So one day, for no particular reason other than I couldn't stand Joe, I tucked a chicken bone into his ACU blouse when he wasn't looking. We were in the chow hall. And no crap, later that day, he's talking to our platoon sergeant when he notices it's there and pulls it out in front of her and gives her this stupid, quizzical look. And the platoon sergeant loses her mind. She's like, "Joe, why the heck you got a goddamn chicken bone in your pocket?" And I'm like, interesting. So for like months, whenever I go to the DFAC, I swipe some sort of avian bone. And when this guy isn't looking, I drop it into his blouse or pants. And this kid, man, he never learned. As soon as he found something strange, he would pull it out and stare at it like, "How did this get here?" And sure enough, platoon sergeant or lieutenant or colonel or someone would be like, "Ah, dang it, Joe, that's freaking creepy. Stop carrying around chicken bones." This whole thing culminated when he went on leave, and I had a few friends snatch all the bones they could for like 2 weeks leading up. As soon as he was on the plane home, I filled a garbage bag with these bones and hid them in his CHU. Next inspection, platoon sergeant finds this bag and loses her crap. Like, that dude had mandatory mental health appointments for the rest of deployment. Good times. Story 11. Every day, pay a group of people to sneak into their house and move everything they own, furniture and all, over by an inch. Repeat every day, slowly increasing the increments of how much you'll move their things. And once you've done this to a satisfying, nerve-wracking result, wait for the right moment to start moving their actual house. Preferably, they live somewhere the house has plenty of room to move around, and push it out and away from society to turn them into a hermit. And if they just move, you can always just follow them. Ain't no thing. Huh? Ain't no thing is the understatement of the millennium when you're talking about physically relocating someone's entire dwelling. This story is as unrealistic as that last story with so much red in it. It's making me red reading it. Sorry, dear listener. Back to the stories. Story 12. My high school philosophy teacher had a roommate that said he heard voices saying soon over and over again. My teacher had recorded himself saying it, changed the pitch and slowed it down, and played it over and over again when he got in bed at night and randomly throughout the night. Then one day, before he got into the shower, he smudged the word soon into the glass shower door, so when it fogged up, you saw it. Apparently, my teacher didn't know how it truly had driven this person into insanity, but he later found out he started living in his car so he could sleep in public. Guess he's really kooky now. So wait, who's kookier? The guy affected by this insane thing or the guy doing the insane thing? Story 13. A friend of my family works as an inventor. As a kid, he loved playing around with everything from making tin soldiers to homemade locks to picking apart electronics to see how they worked. One day, he got his hands on some tiny red LEDs and he decided to play a prank on his little brother, who was afraid of the dark and who didn't like having to sleep alone, something his parents were pushing hard for him to do. So the friend of our family sneaked into his little brother's room, removed the helmet of one of his action figures, and put it back on after placing 2 red LEDs inside. There was a thin cord running along the wall under the door and into his own room, but it was discreet and went unnoticed. When the time came for the little brother to go to bed, the guy waited for their mother to say goodnight to his little brother, and then for her to come say goodnight to him. Then he waited a few minutes more, and then he turned on the LEDs. After a few seconds, the little brother screamed and the guy turned off the lights. When the mother came to check up on the little brother, he told her about glowing red eyes and how he was afraid to sleep alone in the dark. She told him he was imagining things and she'd stay with him for 10 minutes and even read something, but then he had to stay in his room. So 10 minutes pass and then the mother leaves. A few minutes go by and the guy turns on the lights again. The little brother screams and the lights go off. Same story, except now the mother does not stay after telling him there's nothing there. A few minutes pass, and this time the little brother is sitting in the corner of his bed with the lights on, staring at the general direction of where the light came from. But because their rooms were so close to each other, the guy does not turn the LEDs on while the little brother has the lamps on. Eventually, they go dark and he waits a few minutes. Then he flashes the LEDs, only for a few seconds. The little brother screams and runs to his parents' room, crying. He sleeps in their bed that night, and half an hour or so later, the guy sneaks into his little brother's room and removes the LEDs. He never got caught. He didn't tell his family what really happened until he and the younger brother were both grown up and moved out. Story 14. Convince one coworker that you really don't exist. You are a figment of their imagination. Now, to do this, all your other coworkers have to pretend you're not even there. Even the boss should be in on it. The only person you can really interact with would be the tormented coworker, unless they aren't around. Or you could try to convince them you're their work personality, kind of like Fight Club, getting everyone to ignore the coworker when you speak. You can make it so when you're not around, everyone else pretends to the tormented coworker that you, as the alter ego / imaginary coworker, don't and have never existed. Oh, and just to really mess with him or her once they seem to start believing the illusion, throw in little bits of reality and act normal again, but only briefly. Cause doubt, suspicion, and paranoia all within a couple of weeks. I'm sure there's plenty of ways this can go, such as driving the coworker insane and making him or her really dangerous. It's a good thing you have an unlimited amount of money, otherwise HR and the boss would probably never agree to this. And I'm also betting that HR and the boss will never agree to this. Story 15. We have a friend that tends to be a bit naive and can lose his crap and get angry really easily. Me and my friends always thought it would be funny to give him a fake name and convince him it was his real name. One night, I'm with 7 to 8 of my friends. We were pretty intoxicated and decided to put this old plan into action. We wait for a little blank in the conversation and we try all to look really concerned and explain to him that he just came out of a 1-hour blackout and that we were really afraid he drank too much, close to calling 911 and stuff, while proceeding to discreetly introduce his new fake name. As we expected, he is getting mad. First, he doesn't believe us, but as we refuse to let him go, we can see him starting to doubt. At this point, he isn't even saying anything when we call him Benoit. His name is Benjamin, but we usually call him Ben, so that almost checks out, because he's too worried by the fact that he just passed out without even realizing it. After a moment, he finally realizes that it's not supposed to be his name and asks about it, but we stick to our version. He's always been named like that. He just doesn't remember because of all the alcohol, the blackout, etc. We start making fun of him. Dude, you're so wasted, you don't even remember your name, WTF. It's like he was believing us while trying to convince himself that it was impossible. We dragged that crap on for so long and we were so into it that we really drove him insane. After we revealed that we were messing with him, he was so relieved. He asked us to not ever do this again because we pretty much ruined his night. He was really stressed and disoriented during the joke. That's not cool, but we're always having so much fun fooling that guy. I think I'd do it again. We still call him Benoit from time to time. Story 16. This one requires literally no money, just an extra keyboard. I had a coworker who didn't take pranks very well. The smallest little prank would make him mad, taking ink out of pens, unplugging phone from wall, etc. It got to the point where we all pranked him not because the prank was funny, but because it was funny just to see how he would react. Most people, aka non-Redditors, don't know that you can plug in multiple keyboards and mice into computers. I went to the cubicle next to his, plugged in an extra keyboard under the cubicle wall, and into the back of his PC. Every once in a while, I'd go over the keyboard and use shortcuts to manipulate whatever he was doing. It started simple with Alt-Tab to switch the active application, but escalated to closing applications, locking the computer, and even restarting the machine. I would only do it once a day or so and carried it out over a few weeks. As time went on, he got more and more frustrated every time something would happen. He would start screaming, slamming the keyboard, and freaking out because he was convinced his computer was possessed. It went on for a few weeks until everyone in the office was in on what I was doing and they couldn't keep straight faces when it would happen. It was classic. Story 17. It's a small device called an Annoyatron. You can buy them online. It's about the size of a quarter, maybe bigger, and it's magnetic. It has two settings that you can control with a small switch. The first noise is a very high-pitched but very quiet, long, shrill noise, kind of like a dog whistle. The second noise is similar, only it's a beeping noise and very quiet, but both are loud enough for most people to hear. The point is to find a target to annoy. It's better if you've got a group of people in on it, and place the device under a chair that they're sitting in or just a room where you are all hanging out. The target will hear the noise and ask what that noise is or if anyone else hears it. Everybody has to act like they have no idea what the target is talking about. Tell them they're just hearing things or whatever. A large group of my family did this to me. We were all sitting outside and I kept hearing this noise. Nobody else could hear it, and if I asked about it, they all looked at me like I was insane, and I kept hearing the noise for hours until they showed me what it was. Then I borrowed it and gave it to a friend, and she cried, "It will certainly drive you insane." Story 18. Every night, tie a red balloon to the doorknob to the person's house. If they remove it, tie another one. If they leave it, tie another one. The first one should have something written on it like, "You have been chosen," then "You're next," or "We're coming for you," "Soon," etc. Then eventually find out where they work. Arrange for one of their coworkers to light a red balloon to their office door with something harmless written on it like, "Hello," or "We missed you," or something like that. Then, one fateful day, sneak into their house while they are at work and put a red balloon in their closet. When they go to remove it, they will pull and find that it is attached to a can full of strong vaporized substances. Hopefully, this will scar their minds so much that they are permanently affected. Cheers. And if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 19. Here we go. I was at my job one day. We walked to the printer to pick up something. When I returned to my desk, a guy had taken my chair and sat with the girl at the cube next to me watching videos together. He saw me. I saw him. I knew he took my chair. He knew he took my chair. I loudly asked, "Who took my chair?" not breaking eye contact with him. He smiled and went back to watching videos. I went and got another chair. I watched him when he left to see where his desk was. At the end of the day, I stayed late until everyone was gone. I rearranged everything on his desk, replacing some things with his neighbor's stuff, and I took his chair and rolled it away to someone else's desk. I did this every night after work for about 3 months. I watched him come in the next day, every morning, confused, angry, bewildered. It was immature and petty, but I loved it, and it certainly drove him insane. Story 20. So we were deployed, right? There was this one lieutenant. I couldn't stand this guy. Most of us couldn't stand this guy. Just a real schmuck. So I decided to play this game called, quote, Going Insane. It takes a few months and a couple of friends who can keep their goddamn mouths shut. It starts off small. I would bring him some random form at some random time of day saying, "Here's that ID T10 form you requested, sir." And of course, he's going to be like, "I didn't ask for that form, stupid." And I'm like, yes, you did, sir." And of course, he doesn't believe you, but you keep it up. Not a lot at first, just little by little. And then your friends start doing it, bringing random forms, showing up with lunches he didn't ask for. The food thing is important because he knows he didn't ask for it, but it's lunchtime and it's food and he's willing to accept it. And then, of course, you stop doing things he asks. He does ask you for a form you don't fill out, and when it doesn't come, say, "You don't ask me for that." At first, he's just going to think you're messing with him, but keep it up. The longer it goes on, the more he will start to doubt his sanity. I would sneak into his office at night and change things. Nothing drastic. I would just move a few things around so the office would feel different. Like pour half a cup of coffee into his mug or tape a memo or something to his desk or circle an empty date on his calendar. Anyway, this months-long process culminates with me on his CHU at like 2 in the morning dressed in full battle rattle. He opens up in PTs and is like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "What the heck, sir? We're supposed to SP, start mission now. Are you not even dressed?" The CEO is furious. And he's like, "Oh crap," closes the door and I can hear him furiously throwing crap around trying to get ready. Meanwhile, I walk back to my CHU, go back to bed. He never said a thing to me and I stopped messing with him after that. Story 21. Easy. Wire their entire house, car, friends' houses, etc. with miniature speakers and cameras so you have access to them almost no matter where they are. Pay someone to hack their phone too. Start off slow and one day just play a very quiet clip of the wind blowing in their bedroom just before they fall asleep. Do it again for a month or two, but this time have it be something that sounds almost like a voice, but probably still the wind. Do this one right after they have driven somewhere and turned off the car. Gradually ramp this up until they're hearing full-blown whispers on a weekly or daily basis. Make sure to vary speaker location so they don't find them. Eventually, they'll lose their mind. Wait a minute, this isn't a prank. It's a slow burn horror movie where the monster is like Wi-Fi enabled. Good one, though. Story 22. This won't work anymore, but one of my favorite pranks ever was back when MySpace was getting popular. You used to be able to post comments on people's pages that included HTML. I had a buddy who needed to be messed with, so I posted a comment that said, quote, "Friend is pretty cool." In it, I hit some HTML to play an audio file automatically. For a couple of weeks, I didn't put a file in the folder that the HTML pointed to. After the post had gone down his page quite a bit, I uploaded the song "I Am Woman." So every time someone went to his MySpace page, that song would play. It drove him completely up the wall. At one point, he posted a message that he thought he had gotten it to stop. So when I saw that, I moved the song out of the FTP folder where it was stored to let him think it was fixed. A week or so later, I put it back. I absolutely drove him bonkers. He was livid when I told him it was me. He told me that he had spent 8 hours at his computer trying to get it to stop. I think that's like one of the worst pranks ever to do is having someone spend hours, a good chunk of their day, trying to figure out what it is that's insanely bothering them, trying to get it to stop. Story 23. With an unlimited amount of money, hire literally every person they might speak to and give them the following instructions. On the first day, they will replace the word car with the word Patrick in all of their speech. On the second day, they will replace both the words car and shoe with the word Patrick. On the third day, they will replace the words car, shoe, phone, and eat with the word Patrick. This process will continue with twice as many words being replaced with the word Patrick every day until practically every word they hear is Patrick. You will pay someone to modify the computer and phone operating system such that the only language they know is Patrick. You will pay someone to replace all labels, signs, logos, advertisements, and the text of every book they might come into contact with Patrick. You will not know this person. You will never take credit for this prank. One day, after years of this, their phone will ring. They pick it up and a voice comes down the line. "Hello, is this the Krusty Krab?" Irate, they shout back, "No, this is Patrick," and slam down the receiver. After a moment, they realize that someone just spoke to them using words other than Patrick for the first time in like 10 years. Desperately, they try to return the call, but nobody picks up. They try again and again, but to no avail. And then, in a moment, as though somebody has wiped the dust from the far side of a window, clarity comes. The long descent into Patrick hasn't been a process of destruction or loss of meaning. It's been one of revelation. It took years for them to realize, but now that they do, there is no truth in the world but Patrick. Nothing expressible beyond those 2 syllables. It was never that communication was suppressed or stifled, only that there was nothing else to say. And knowing that is a comfort in sorrow and a check on joy, for it is Patrick. 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 Story 24. Randomly rearrange which contact information is associated with which person in every digital contact list they maintain and rely on. Randomly rearrange doorknobs and any locking mechanism throughout his or her dwelling while the subject is away or asleep. Leave fortune cookie-sized random messages in such a way that the subject discovers them. Replace any pictures, whether physical or digital, with non-obvious Photoshop replacements, and build on those over time, never photoshopping the subject if he or she is in the picture. If the subject maintains a diary or a journal, modify past entries or add entries for things that are on the subject's calendar but haven't happened yet, and randomly rearrange the contents of any personal care products, toothpaste and shampoo, shaving cream and toothpaste, etc. Story 25. I think you can easily and voluntarily drive yourself insane to an extent. Story time. I have had several family members pass away very close together in the past few years, including my own children. I am very involved in the religion I practice, and so are almost all my friends and remaining family. I'm struggling to have more children because of issues, and I have lots of emotional distress because I am watching lots of people and friends and family around me have more babies. Yes, I have been to therapy, and I am able to deal with these things much, much better. But there was a point when I wanted to give into despair, and I had everyone around me encouraging me to have faith and telling me everything was going to be all right. I should probably also point out that in my culture and religion, it's expected of me, by God and everyone around me, to have children or do my best to try. So being told to have children and having your children pass away and not being able to have more was my grounds of insanity because I felt that I was stuck and there was nothing and little I could do about it. This is where I feel it sounds really stupid, but what about insanity makes sense anyway? Batman, the animated series, came on Netflix, so late one night I listened to it on my phone while I started to go to sleep. I heard the monologue from the Joker and it made sense to me. Everything that I was putting myself through and all the expectations were a joke. It was all one big, sick joke. I laughed my guts out till I cried and I could mentally see the door of insanity swing wide open to me. I decided to dry my tears, drink some hot cocoa, and get into a bath instead. I felt exhausted the next day, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, but I knew that I had overcome mentally combusting as I think of it. But I think I drove myself towards that way of thinking creatively by listening to an animated fictional character. Story 26. A few weeks ago, we got a new coffee maker at work. It has a large bin of fresh beans at the top. It grinds the fresh beans for every single cup of coffee. A friend and coworker sat within 10 feet of the new machine. It drove him crazy and sacrificed his desk in an open environment for a cubicle across the office because of the noise of the constant grinding. It was a few days after the move when he told me why he moved. He had been out on the road for about a week, and while he was gone, I put one baby monitor by the coffee maker and the other in a drawer in the vacant cubicle adjacent to his. There were many groans. I felt bad and showed him my elaborate prank, but it drove him crazy for a couple of days. Story 27. I have the Watch On app on my S4 set up to control my TVs, but only told one of my two roommates about it. So sometimes when the other roommate has the remote, I'll switch channels, turn it off and on, mess with volume, basically just mix it up however I feel. He flips and tries to figure it out, but he never suspects it's me. He's gone so far as taking the batteries out and putting the remote upstairs while leaving the batteries on the table. As soon as he came back downstairs and sat down, I turned the TV off. It works even better because I do it every now and then, not every time, so he never knows when it's coming. Story 28. Choose your target, place them in a big toughened glass, hardened plastic box with no way out, and slowly, via a number of randomly placed holes in the ceiling, drop one coin at a time. Give enough light to allow them to see, but not enough to see where the coins drop from. Make sure the box and container is in a big pitch black warehouse so they almost feel like they are in space. Just make sure it's lit up, the box I mean. Very slowly, the box will begin to fill with pennies. Maybe an hour before they get to a certain point, light the whole warehouse, have either a single man sitting in a chair watching in view of your target, or have a big crowd of people dressed in suits, just sitting in silence. Effects. The target wakes, disoriented in a big clear box with darkness all around. They can see inside the box fine, but that's it. The dropping coins aren't much of a problem at first, but very quickly the sound of them dropping will drive the target insane. If that doesn't, the lack of sleep, no place to lay down safely away from the coins will. At the big reveal of their tormentors, maybe 3 days in, whenever the box gets close to filling, the target sees a crowd or a solitary man just watching them. No indication of why, no explanation, and no sound aside from the clink of coins and their own screaming. Yeah, I think that'd mess someone up quite well. Story 29. I've recently moved to the UK to study, and I'm not a native English speaker. My English is decent enough to go to uni, but there I still sometimes interrupt conversations with a "what does insert word mean?" So my English flatmates thought it would be funny to keep making up new words, include them in their everyday conversation, and then explain them to me like nothing's wrong and they're all in on it. After about 5 nonsense words, I slowly caught up on it and became paranoid. It drives me crazy not knowing whether the word I just learned existed or not. They won't stop, and I have no way to stop them. It is a foreigner's worst nightmare. Story 30. I got nothing, but I know someone apparently that has figured out the perfect first step to driving someone insane, and that someone is me. Imagine if you signed someone up for every single online offer you could find: credit cards, auto loans, religious information, every single lower IRS debt ad. Get creative. Sign them up for information about franchise opportunities and those pyramid schemes that you see infomercials for at 3 a.m. Make a $1 donation in their name to every single charity you can think of. The letters never stop after that, and they will reference that $1 donation in every letter they send for the rest of eternity. Pledge to every telethon and cause that you can think of in their name. Make sure to include the NRA and the Fraternal Order of Police. Getting calls from angry representatives of either group demanding to know where their money is a bit concerning. I don't know who the heck decided this would be funny, and I admit it sort of is, but it is literally starting to drive me insane. My phone rings every 4 minutes from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. I have to wade through pages of spam to get to real email. And since they have my name and I process a lot of emails from names I don't recognize for work, I end up opening about 10 of them a day. I get a 3-inch stack of mail every day. My mailman hates me. Story 31. While my friend was taking one of his exams, his roommate and I hid an entire pad of Post-it notes around his room with stupid random little notes. Some of them were really obvious, like under his keyboard, under his mouse, and his pillow, but others were in really, really obscure places, like on a random page of one of his books, the backs of all of his picture frames, and inside the lining of his winter coat. At first, we were just bored and he found most of them, but as time went on, he kept finding the more and more obscure ones, and since we never told him that we had done it, he thinks that someone is routinely coming into his room and hiding Post-it notes. There's still about 20 he hasn't found yet, and now we're just waiting. The last time he found one was inside his computer tower, and all we could hear down the hall was, "How the heck did he hide it here?" Story 32. Kept them locked in a house with amenities provided, set up a few timers around their house such that wherever they go, they play a pure tone, something in the high-pitch area but not too uncomfortably high. Have them all chime every 30 seconds in synchronicity for a few weeks. After that, start messing with the timing of the intervals for chiming in synchronicity, maybe change it from 30 to 23 seconds. Observe their effects and how that changes their perception of time. Then you can change the timing of each individual one and see how that messes with them. Story 33. I had an English teacher in high school who had taken some courses in body language and had some creative ways of applying what he had learned. One day, right after the bell rang, the teacher noticed an empty seat and asked, "Bob here today?" Someone spoke up for him and said he was at school earlier, so he was probably just in the bathroom or something. The teacher proceeded to instruct the class to all take turns staring just above his head after he came in and sat down. So Bob comes in late, sits down, and a few minutes later, he notices someone looking at something above and behind him. He looks up, doesn't see anything interesting, then goes back to the homework. A few minutes later, he catches someone else staring just above him. This time, he fiddles with his hair, making sure it's not sticking up or doing anything crazy. Everything seems fine, so he goes back to his homework again. This continues several more times with him checking behind himself, adjusting his shirt, and fixing his hair a few more times. After about 15 minutes, he was really on edge, and then it happened. He saw someone else glance above his head, and he snapped. He jumped out of his desk, slammed his book down on the floor, and yelled, "What? What are you looking at?" To which the teacher calmly replied, "Don't be late next time." Story 34. Hang out in a restaurant, in the middle of a conversation, look at them earnestly and say, "It's time to wake up now." When they ask what's going on, repeat yourself, "It's time to wake up now." Don't say anything else but that. Then have other people in the restaurant start saying it. "It's time to wake up now." Have old friends they haven't seen in years start showing up and saying it. When they go outside, random strangers start saying it. When they pick up their phone, all they hear is the voice of their mother saying, "It's time to wake up now." Bonus if you can get high school teachers to show up. Story 35. Okay, I'll start this off by mentioning that at the time this was going on, I was living with my grandmother. Back when I was around 17, 18, I had a girlfriend whom I would text pretty much all day, every day. So every 10 minutes or so, the text tone on my phone would go off. One day, I decided to change my text tone to a clown horn type of noise to mix up my life a bit. Now, my grandmother isn't very techno-savvy and is mildly hard of hearing, so the first time she heard the noise, which she couldn't distinguish the origin of, she naturally inquired, "What was that noise?" Without skipping a beat and without ever glancing over to her to remain as casual and calm as possible, I answered, "What noise?" "Game. Set." For the first day or so, whenever she heard the noise, she would ask if I had heard it that time, to which my answer would always be some variation of, "I don't know what you're talking about." Then, slowly, she stopped mentioning the noise every time she heard it, but out of the corner of my eye, I could see her perk her ears up and look around. One day, we had some family members over, and by a stroke of luck, they were all placed on one side of the living room. My grandmother was standing in the middle of the room, and I was standing on the other side of the room, so my grandmother could only address one of either me or the other family members at any one time. Then I get a text, and she spins around and asks me loudly if I heard that, as if to try and catch me out on some devious prank. No idea where she got that idea. After I replied no, she turned to ask my other family members, and I stood behind her, shaking my head and mouthing, "Say no." Every single one of them had stone poker faces while telling her she must be hearing things. I kept that going for around 2 months before telling her I was messing with her. These days, if she asks me if I want something, I'll reply with a yes, and when she brings me it, I'll say something along the lines of, "I told you I didn't want that," or vice versa if I didn't actually want it. Story 36. My buddy somehow got his remote synced up with his neighbor's flat screen in the apartment next to his. Invited me over that Sunday during a Packers game, and we sat in his apartment, shutting off the television at regular intervals. Whenever it seemed like something good was about to happen, shutting off the cable, etc. The unbridled rage we could hear from the other side of the wall still amuses me when I think about it to this day. He told me it was about a month before the neighbor did something to the TV and the remote no longer worked. Told me he would randomly just hit the on-off button whenever he was bored a couple of days a week. To my knowledge, he never found out. And if any of these stories got to you or inspired you, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.